So at this point, we will be hearing from the chair of the ECE department, Professor Bill Lin. So let me turn the floor over to Bill.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ramesh. So first of all, I would like to add my thanks to everyone for joining this symposium today to celebrate all of Elias's incredible achievements. To me, I've always said that department culture is extremely important. And I think we absolutely have Elias to thank for the wonderful culture that we have today in our department. When I first joined the department back in 1997, it became immediately clear to me that Elias was a central figure in the department. And I think in looking back, it's absolutely clear that Elias had always emphasized doing fundamental research that is rigorously grounded in mathematics. And I think this is very much a part of our DNA today. And I think as we heard today from several people, Elias's work in time series, regression, and neural networks were clearly ahead of his time. And I think even though we didn't call some of this work data science at the time, it's very clear that his fundamental works in these areas are very much what we call data science or machine learning today, which are clearly some of the most important areas. I just want to say one thing I remember very much about Elias is whenever I saw him walking around the department in the past, he was always carrying with him either textbooks or a stack of research papers. And I'm mentioning this because I think we will all agree that Elias was truly a scholar and that he dedicated his life to academic pursuit. So Elias was very much a model for all of us to follow. So with that, I would like to introduce Dean Pisano to say a few more words and to talk about a generous gift from Elias.
Okay, Bill, thank you very, very much. Ramesh, thanks for being such a great MC. And to everyone that is here, I will offer immediately that I am disadvantaged in that I never had the pleasure of knowing Professor Masry when he was in his prime and making all these contributions. And it's really wonderful to hear from the speakers their recollections of him. So thank you. That's a gift to me and I appreciate it. It falls upon me to offer you just a few comments about Professor Masry's official roles. And I think most of you know this, but let me go over the information. And then, yes, Bill, there is a very nice announcement I'll make at the end. So be patient with me for just 2 or 3 minutes. So I was pleased to learn that Professor Masry was one of the founding faculty members of what was then the Applied Electrophysics Department, AE. This ultimately became the ECE department. I am impressed, just in awe, that his distinguished research career spanned 4 entire decades. And when ECE started as Applied Electrophysics in 1965, and then became Applied Physics and Information Science in 1968, and then EECS, Electrical Engineering Computer Sciences, in 1980, and then Electrical and Computer Engineering, ECE, in 1987, Professor Masry was there for each and every one of those transitions, and I understand was influential in each and every one of those. So it's not every day you get to honor someone who's really shaped the evolution of a department from the very beginning through all the evolutions to the end. We all know that Professor Masry was always involved in the area of communications. And of course, this evolved into communications theory and systems. And again, thanks to all the speakers from that group that have made presentations. Thank you to the students who have, the ex-students who have made the presentations. Professor Masry comes from a very wonderful era when he could be an extremely dedicated researcher and earned a lot of honor by being the sole author on many papers. This is a very different era than today. But that was not his only modus operandi. He was a collaborating author on many, many other papers. And I'm pleased to learn that his collaborations are both from within the CTS group, as well as other research groups within the department, as well as many other research faculty outside of UCSD. And so it's no surprise that his fame is well known. I think we've all picked up already that one of his key characteristics, and even to garlic, I now understand, was his scrupulous attention to detail. So it's not every day you can completely retrain a restaurant, as we just heard. And his attention to detail in the rigorous mathematical derivations, I think, is the basis of the strength of his research. So in 1986, he was elected as fellow as IEEE for his contributions to the theory of stochastic processes and time series analysis in sample data systems and digital communication systems. So it's not every day we celebrate someone with such an illustrious career who is so much part of the DNA of what the Jacob School is today, and certainly a big chunk of DNA from ECE. All of you know that much more than I do because you experienced it, and I'm happy to report this to you, but in all candor, it's my loss not to have known him better when he was in a period when he was so active. Well, it turns out that Professor Masry will continue to have incredible impact on the department and the school. And Bill, thank you for the honor of being able to make this announcement. I am pleased to announce to all of you that there is now funded an Elias Masry Endowed Fellowship Fund. Perfect, thank you. And this comes about because as part of his legacy, Professor Masry has endowed this fellowship to support PhD students in the Communications Theory and Systems program. And you see a website at the bottom of the view graph. There is a large endowment already put in, and we are hoping that that each of you feel, or that a group of us can continue to add to this endowment. This is the website that you use. So thanks for the time and attention. It's not every day someone has such a big impact on the school and then concretizes it with a large gift from his estate that makes possible an endowed fellowship fund for students forthgoing. I mean, wow, I'm just blown away. That is what I call impact throughout the career. So I turn it back over to you, Ramesh, and I just close by saying, as a dean, I am a lucky guy to have this kind of faculty in my school. I'm just blown away. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Pisano, for your kind words. Much appreciated. We have some time now if anybody in the audience wishes to share their thoughts, observations. Oscar.
Yeah, hi. So, what I say now may sound repetitious, but I would like to share my own experience with him. So I joined UCSD in 1983. Okay? So my interaction with him probably is a little different than some of the talks we heard here today. But I didn't join ECE, so I didn't have the fortune of having him as a mentor right from the beginning. Okay? So I was in the Ames department, which is the Applied Mechanics and Engineering Sciences. As you probably gathered from the history of Elias's career, the university has gone through many, morphed into the new form in many, through many changes. But I was working in adaptive filtering. So that was an area that clearly was very similar to, had commonalities with Elias. Okay. But I must confess that once I had gone to Elias' students' talks, I realized it was very different. Okay. So my first meeting with Elias was actually through his PhD student, Avi Krieger. So I had attended his PhD defense. So I was on his PhD committee and I had gone to his defense. And then I realized, the bar was high at UCSD. So this is what you learn as a young faculty member. Wait a minute, you got to game, maybe you need to shape up, okay? Because, so he was clearly had a big influence because his area was very close to mine, even though I was in a different department. Right? And Avi's problem also was on analyzing the adaptive filter. I think Onkar talked a lot about it, okay? And talked about the difficulty, but maybe I will try to share what the difficulty in a little different way, okay? So adaptive filters are quite common. So they were actually quite popular in the 80s, right? And I remember actually, my PhD was on adaptive filters, right? And I was looking at what are called IR filters, but most of the work is actually FIR filters. Okay? And I wanted to write a proposal and the NSF person said, we are not funding adaptive filters anymore, okay? Because I don't think there will be any more progress. He thought that he had funded for 30 years and he didn't think there would be any more results to follow. Okay? And then I go to Avi's thesis defense and I say, wait a minute, this program manager clearly does not know what he's talking about. Because the work that he did was quite impressive in the sense that these LMS filters change the filter coefficient with every sample. As a result, the filter coefficients are really a function, a nonlinear function, all the past samples. So once you think about it, trying to figure out what these filters will converge to and even prove what properties they have is really daunting. Okay? But they were known to work. So they were widely used. Okay? And the most common results were really on independent random process, where the samples were independent of the past samples. But that had no bearing on the real signals that people applied them to. Okay? So in some sense, the theory was completely, could not explain why they worked in real world applications. Okay? The best results at that point were what are called M-dependent processes, which is basically allowing for dependence locally. And of course, Avi's results were on these mixing processes. I think that Dharmendra talked about a little, and then on asymptotically independent processes. So I learned so much just by being on that committee. And also, it was clearly a very clear indication of the high quality of work that was expected of faculty members at UCSD. Of course, when I joined, when the reorganization, I was able to join ECE and have the opportunity to interact more with Elias. I, of course, jointly supervise a student. Okay, so I do want to share a little. Okay, I actually was not sure if I enjoyed the meetings or I was looking forward to, because both of them were true. Okay? I knew I would learn something, but I knew it would be painful. So the student would submit his report and it was all marked up, okay? So I looked at the marking. When he came into the office, he would put his notes on the table. I had also read the report, but mine was barely marked up, okay? So I would look at his and I said, gosh, I don't think we'll get past page 1 today, okay? Because it was already fully read and this page was, 15 pages long. And true to form, because we would sit for 1 hour, not for 4 hours, like 3 hours that Onkar was talking about and what Dharmendra was talking about. So at the end of the hour, we would barely get past 1 page. Okay. So at some point I said, God, I don't know if we'll ever get to an end to this process, but fortunately we did. Okay, so I'm glad to actually report that we did get past page 1 to page 2 and eventually to the final version. And I'm happy to say I have 1 publication with Elias. Okay. And we had a conference paper actually that won the best student paper award. So working with Elias always raises the level of your work. So I am very grateful that I had the opportunity to meet him early and have him influence me during my work. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhaskar. I think you speak for many of us. Charles, you have your hand up.
Yes. Yeah, thanks to this memorial symposium being virtual so that I can attend in Taiwan, starting at 5 a.m. And this memorial symposium reaffirms Elias' standing in the three aspects of being a professor: research, teaching, and service. So I was, from the video tribute, I was impressed with Elias' so many single author papers, unlike mine, and the impact his research has in the communication series. And Elias was awarded the Best Teacher Award for undergraduate teaching as well as for graduate teaching. And this was affirmed by the touching testimonials from his former students. And finally, he was a model citizen for the department. He was collegial and he did not shirk away from what's been asked of him. And he left a legacy of an endowed scholarship. So I'm very happy that we are celebrating his legacy. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Charles. It's hard for me, to be honest, to summarize my own feelings about Elias. He was larger than life influence on me. I don't think I would have been at UCSD were it not for him. The field of networking at one time was all about performance analysis. That's the path that I took. But in contrast, if I might say so, to how many results are published in mathematical statistics, where you're at liberty to make assumptions about the processes and derive results about estimators and so on. A network is a fully specified system, so you tend not to have the ability to make assumptions like M dependency. While at one time we were the EECS department and every undergraduate student took the queuing theory course that Elias created, which was all about performance analysis, the field evolved and much of the work on networking was done by systems folks whose worldview is closer to what Bill Coles shared. The last thing you would look for is an accurate model. To this day, nobody knows why TCP works. All we know is that it works. So the field evolved in a manner in which mathematics, the rigorous derivation of results, slowly started to fade away, and being able to demonstrate functions and new capabilities of live networks took over. The problems remain, and I keep nurturing the thought that we'll be able to rigorously prove things. The field of wireless networks brings the two together because you want to be able to understand the impact of the wireless channel, and having accurate models for fading, for example, and taking advantage of it in the context of MIMO is very much at the heart of what we need to do. But it's been wonderful to be in a department where we span the entire spectrum with respect, from applied physics to applied math, with systems work in between, which isn't necessarily attached to a method, but outcomes. So building a culture that kept the department together, including dealing with the most difficult things, which is really academic personnel, I think is part of his lasting legacy. If I'm not mistaken, to this day, ECE is a unique department in how strong an internal committee we have on academic personnel. So I think, as Charles put it, I think in many ways, Elias exemplifies what we actually mean by focusing on research, teaching, and service. I think there is so much more that we have learned from hearing the other testimonials, a lot for us to reflect on. And I do want to say that endowing this fellowship, as I gather, $1 million is another lesson he's taught us as he passed on how we say thank you. I don't know of any other colleague at the university that stepped up to do as much, given their own life experiences here. So I think that is another lasting lesson that I certainly feel he leaves us with. So it's time for me to also say thank you. Thank you to the effort that Bhaskar Rao pulled together on behalf of the department. There's a long list of individuals that you see on the screen here. First and foremost, Sammy and Erica Metzer, who were so helpful to us in providing us information that we didn't quite have. I want to also acknowledge Chelsea Largoza's efforts in shepherding it all together and producing this very professional looking program. There is many people that contributed to it, but I think it's been a wonderful few hours that we managed to come together. So thank you very much for spending time here with us.
So I have
Thank you, Ramesh.
Could I share
Lucy?
something?
Sure.
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. So I would also like to share a memory of Dr. Masry. Professor Masry, he's on my doctoral committee. So Dr. Masry is my advisor, but Masry is on my committee, and so are you, Ramesh Rao, Dr. Ramesh Rao, if you remember. And so I could remember all of this talk of vigorous work and meticulous details. So my memory of my qualifying exam, so that was when I proposed my thesis topic at the end of it. So usually as we do, so my topic was the effect of channel estimation error on the diversity channels. So as communications theory student, we usually start out with the channel model and using the central limit theorem with a Gaussian, it was on the interference that I made the assumption of. Very standard, kind of step one, Gaussian, you move on and you start to do your work. But Professor Masry asked, he challenged my central limit theorem. He asked, are you sure this is Gaussian? And I was kind of like shocked. It's kind of like asking me, are you sure you need to prove gravity before you can start walking? And so coming out of the exam, I got that challenge. I was kind of shaken, it's like, what do I do without the Gaussian assumption? Everything is just going to fall apart. So I took that, I went back and started to look at it. I think, frankly, I never really paid too much attention on how do you prove the central limit theorem, what are needed, what are the details. We usually just say assume, then we're off. Then I looked at it, and to my horror, it did not hold in my case. So I was like, oh my God. So at that point, like, work started. I think that really kicked it up a notch. And so there's the part of the technical details, and then there's the part of the mentorship. I think we had a talk, and he kind of usually he doesn't smile too much, and that so made it very formidable. So when there's such a challenge, I was scared. Basically, I was just frankly scared. But we had a talk, and he had this smile, like that was not very common. And he basically gave me the encouragement to say, kind of, you can do this. This is what it takes. This is kind of what a PhD is about. You got to do. This is what it is. And gave me the encouragement, and then I went from there, and I kind of look at the model, look at the because this is a diversity system. Diversity correlated signal is part of the diversity. We needed the correlated signal in order to combine them for the diversity. You can't say they're independent. So kind of a chicken and egg. So I ended up adjusting my model so that I can proceed, so that the central limit theorem will hold in those situations. Now I've heard from Professor Proakes that Patrick had actually solved that problem. So Patrick, I'm going to have to look up your paper and maybe call you up, have you explain it to me if I don't get it. But I think it left a very big lesson, I think, to learn, as well as all the other, there's so much memories that came out from Anka's slide deck, the template. I was like, oh my God, my slide deck looked exactly like that. You know, I still have it somewhere. I'm sure I can find the transparencies. And remembering Professor Masry, steady, right? He's always walking his very steady pace with his huge binder. And it really do show me kind of steady and meticulous, you can tackle hard things. I think he showed a great example of that. And I think actually I want to, in addition to remembering Professor Masry, and actually I wanted to tell all of you, everybody here, there's so many professors in my life that you have made a huge impression on me. And I think so much of me, the PhD process kind of was the foundation of me. And so I want to say thank you to all of you, because I don't think we get a chance to say this very much. And in this virtual environment, we actually get to talk to each other. And one little tidbit that just came to mind, Professor Proakis, my PhD thesis topic was inspired by a talk, a discussion with you, something that you said in one of the joint meeting in Dr. Milstein and Dr. Siegel's meeting. You mentioned something about diversity system that got me thinking about something that led to my topic. Actually, I was looking for a long time for a topic that I'm passionate about, not just math that I could do so I can solve some equations and write a paper. I wanted something that I was passionate about, and something you said led me down that path. It's like a light bulb went on. It's like, oh, this is cool. Let me do this. So just appreciate this chance to share all of you how much the school does for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. I think that brings the program to an end. Thank
So
you.
Ramesh,
Yes.
why don't you ask people to turn on their camera so that we can take a group picture?
Okay. Charles, the department's long-serving photographer requests that we all turn on our cameras so we can do a group screenshot.
1, 2, 3. Okay, good. Thank you.